Hello everybody, my name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Show, and we have breaking news, and in not very good news for Wigan fans, but slightly predictable news really. Wigan's appeal has been rejected, so Wigan officially are relegated. I mean, officially they already were relegated pending appeal, but all done and dusted now. Wigan will play in League One next season. And if you're not caught up on the story, due to a 12-point deduction given to Wigan after they went into administration really close to the end of the season. I mean, 6 games from the end of the season, their crazy owners put them into administration. 12-point deduction. That has essentially relegated them. So, look, we're going to talk about this news. What I will say straight away is this is not going to be an emotional rant. I would say right now, I have every sympathy for Paul Cook. Not his fault. I have every sympathy for the Wigan players. They were brilliant. Not their fault. Even more so, I have every sympathy for the Wigan fans because they had to watch on and couldn't even do anything about all of this. What we're talking about here really is Wigan's owners and the EFL. I do not think it's enough to just, go and type a tweet, EFL aren't fit for purpose, da-da. Hopefully I get some likes and some retweets. And then frankly, a lot of people will do that who don't even care about Wigan, and that's not really my style. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at the actual rulings, and let's try and take the emotions. I know they're running high, and I have them. I don't have a heart of stone. I have sympathy, like I say, for Wigan fans, players, management, but emotional reactions do not solve complex issues, and this is a very complex issue, let's just say. So that was Paul Kendrick for Wigan today, about 5:10. Said he'd spoken to the QC and that it was all done. Alan Nixon as well, whatever you think of the publication he may or may not write for, when it comes to Northwest matters, he's normally pretty well on it. So we knew this was breaking, so I've tried to get everything together as quickly as I can. There is the Wigan update from their own website here. The joint administrators can provide supporters with the following update on the outcome of Friday's appeal. The joint administrators have been informed that the appeal against our 12-point deduction has not been successful. First team management will now prepare for next season's Sky Bet League One campaign. Tribunal deliberated about the deduction. The tribunal has ruled that the appeal has not been successful. The club put forward a strong case and naturally were disappointed, etc., etc. All very bullet points, matter of fact here. So over we go then to the EFL's website. A little bit more here. Independent arbitration panel. They would have been hired by the EFL, no doubt. Has ruled that Wigan's 12-point deduction for entering administration last month will stand. The insolvency event occurred on the 1st of July under EFL Regulation 12.3. The club was subject to a 12-point sanction, yet the timing of deduction could only be determined once the final games had been played. What that means is that you have to wait until the end of the season. If the club is not naturally with their points total over all the games, 46 in terms of the championship, then the 12 points is taken off, and if they're safe, they're safe. If they move down however many places they need to move down, if they're 13 points clear at the top of the table, then fine, and away you go. If they are already in the relegation zone in those bottom 3 positions, then the 12-point deduction would then be moved on to next season to stop somebody, for example, going into or being relegated by, I don't know, March or something, and then going into administration to try and get all their punishment out of the way for that season and then move on to next season. Shall we have a look at Rule 12.3.2 and see what it says? In a group undertaking, if a group undertaking of a club becomes subject to or suffers an insolvency event, then the board shall have the power to impose upon the club a deduction of 12 points scored or to be scored in the league competition. It then does go on to give the caveats. But what I'm saying is I thought this appeal, sadly, was a waste of time because it's very, very clear in the EFL's wording and whatnot there that if you go into an administration, this is going to happen. It's very, very clear. So I didn't really know what they were appealing against. Obviously, there's been some allegations about the ownership and betting in the Philippines, and that a relegation for Wigan could be could make a successful bet that had been put on against them being relegated. Obviously, they're all ifs, buts, and allegations that we don't know to be true or false or indifferent. But in the bare bones of it, the black and white, it looked fairly clear the whole time that this was going to be the case. Now, very, very quickly, let's have a little look at the bottom of the table there. So that is without the 12-point deduction. So you can see that Wigan then 59 points minus 12 puts them 57 on 23rd position there. And it's very important that they are 23rd and not 22nd. And the reason for that is we seem to be having a lot of people conflating the Sheffield Wednesday case with the Wigan case. Now, I have done 2 videos on the Sheffield Wednesday case, and I would invite you to watch either of them. Over there, you can discuss whether or not Sheffield Wednesday should have been deducted 12 points in terms of FFP this season or next season. You can go and have a debate about that over there. What I do not accept is that the Sheffield Wednesday case is of any relevance to this case. Firstly, have a look. Wigan now have been, they've played out their season, they've been deducted 12 points, and they were 23rd place. Therefore, whatever happened in the Sheffield Wednesday case, Wigan would still be relegated, okay? So in terms of the Wigan case, Sheffield Wednesday could have been deducted 50 points. They could have had 50 points added on. It would have no bearing on whether Wigan got relegated or not at the moment, assuming Derby now don't get deducted 50 points or whatever. Not saying they will. Also, people conflating just because Wigan got deducted points this season, Sheffield Wednesday should be too. I just don't buy that, I'm afraid. They're 2 different cases, one for FFP, one for administration. We have very, very clear ruling. There it is, 12.3.2 on administration. That's the deal. It's this season unless you're already relegated, in which case it's next season. That's very clear. In terms of Sheffield Wednesday, it's not clear. Now, that's not Sheffield Wednesday's fault. That's not Wigan's fault. But we shouldn't conflate the two, is all I would say. And if you want to debate the Sheffield Wednesday thing, look, I know we'll get a comment saying, oh, if we're going to have in the points deduction this season, then Sheffield Wednesday should. I can't do anything about that other than read you all of the necessary information that says, sadly, that's just not the case. Whether you think that's morally right or wrong is a different matter. But on the rules that the arbitration panels and the EFL and everyone has signed up for, I'm afraid it's just not the case. And if you want to talk about the Sheffield Wednesday case, which is fine, and I don't mind what your opinion is on that, I would urge you to go and do it on the other video, because in terms of the Wigan case now, the Sheffield Wednesday case is for a different infraction. Think robbery versus, think armed robbery versus murder. They're 2 different crimes, have 2 different punishments, 2 different systems, 2 different sets of values. In the same way, FFP and administration do as well. Right, enough on Sheffield Wednesday. I know we'll get comments comparing it, but all I can do here is suggest that you take the emotion out of the situation and think, oh, Wigan have been punished and Sheffield Wednesday haven't. Well, they've both been punished, actually. Sheffield Wednesday have been punished next season and Wigan have been punished this season. And go and debate over on the Sheffield Wednesday video as to whether you think that should be the case or not. let me reiterate, Wigan have finished in 23rd place with the deduction. So, as I say, a 50-point deduction for Sheffield Wednesday, and Wigan still would have been relegated. Now, whose fault is it that Wigan have been relegated? Is it Paul Cook's fault? No, obviously not. He's done a really, really fine job, and he's resigned now, and I get it. And he'll go and get another job in the Championship. Good luck to him. Is it the Wigan players' fault that they've been relegated? No, obviously not. Look, 13th position, 59 points. Great job by the Wigan players. Those 11 Wigan players, the 18, the 19, whatever, the first team squad are a mid-table Championship squad who, on the basis of their performances, should not have been relegated. It's not Paul Cook's fault. It's not the Wigan players' fault. Is it the Wigan fans' fault? No, absolutely not. They are the most innocent party in this. They had nothing to do with this. And I feel very badly for them, because at least Paul Cook and the players could try and do something about it, whereas the Wigan fans are just watching on in horror. Now, here we go then. Is it the EFL's fault or is it the owner's fault? The argument I'm going to get on the EFL is that, well, we'll get lots of soundbitey stuff saying the EFL are not fit for purpose. Okay, if you type that, you might be right. You might be right. I don't know. I'm not smart enough really to understand that. And maybe I need a bit more time to figure that out studying the EFL. If you do type that, please put why. Why do you think the EFL are not fit for purpose? Because it's very easy to go down the, I feel emotional that Wigan fans have been hard done by. Life is a power dynamic. The EFL are power. The EFL have got some power. The Wigan fans don't. I'm going to blame the EFL. Fine, you might be right, but please tell me why. Please tell me your reasoning. Never let your emotion override your reasoning. The argument we'll get is the EFL fit and proper persons test is not fit for purpose. Again, you might be right about that. There's an argument that the Wigan owners are not fit for purpose, okay? And the argument says that the EFL should have tested whether they were fit for purpose or not, and predicted that they wouldn't have been fit for purpose, and not let them take over Wigan so they could completely screw Wigan. Now, we're starting to get into the realms of where does the EFL's responsibility begin and end? I don't know. If there's a big red flag somewhere that says these owners were not fit for purpose and the EFL missed it, a big obvious flag that says they shouldn't have been allowed in, then I kind of agree. The EFL should have seen this coming, yeah? If there was no flag, if they gave them the fit and proper persons test, well, in fact, let's stop talking about the fit and proper persons test because it doesn't exist. Let's start talking about the owners and directors test, which if you go to the EFL website, you can see there, Appendix 3, you can read. The intention behind this is to protect the image and integrity of the league and its competitors, the well-being of the clubs and the interests of all the stakeholders in those clubs by preventing anybody who is subject to a disqualifying condition being involved in or influencing the management or administration of a club. So, look, there's a couple of things here, right? If I've written the EFL owners and directors test, yeah, and you come at me and say, your test is not fit for purpose, the first thing I will say to you is, have you read my test? Okay, so what I would say is there's going to be a lot of people saying the EFL's owners and directors test. They'll probably say fit and proper persons test because that's what it's called in the Premier League. If you're going to say that, maybe go and read it first, okay? But I do accept the argument that just because you haven't read something doesn't mean that it's fit for consumption. That's a reasonable argument. You could not have read it and it could still be a load of rubbish. I will tell you right here and now, I haven't read it. I don't understand it. It's all in legalese speak and, you know, I'm just a humble musician who has a football YouTube channel. I don't get it. It sails straight over my head. So what I will say is I don't know whether the wording of that owners and directors test is fit for purpose. I don't know because I don't understand it. So all I can look is at the application of it. Now, in this instance, it would appear that the application of it has failed in that someone who is clearly an improper owner has taken over Wigan and they've fudged them. They've put them into administration. Now, I have an issue blaming the EFL 100% for that. I gave the example on the channel the other day. I've worked in schools. There's a thing called the DBS test. I passed the DBS test. I was deemed a fit and proper person. If I now go into the school and commit a crime, that means I'm not a fit and proper person to work in the school. Does that make the test not fit for purpose? Or am I just a bad person? So what we need to dispute here is the EFL owners and directors test not good enough? Or are the Wigan owners bad people? Yeah? Because I think somewhere along the line, there's a distinction here. It might not be 100% that they're bad people, and it might not be 100% that the EFL owners and directors test doesn't work. But what I will say is it is entirely possible that this is not the EFL's fault and that they've tried to test the Wigan owners and they've got through the tests and then they've outed themselves for being bad people. It is possible that the test is pretty strict and they've managed to get through it and then they've, without waving any red flags, any obvious things to say that they should be disqualified, and then they've done something really bad. Yeah? So it is possible that the EFL's test is fit for purpose and the Wigan owners are just bad people. And by the way, we are talking about the, what are they called? The Next Leader Fund, LP. They are the Wigan owners who took over in January. Is that January? Is that right? Yeah. Oh, no, June. Sorry. All changed over in June. Is that right? Yeah, God, June 2020. Wow. So what I would say now is in terms of evidence that Wigan had previous owners and finished in the Championship and were doing very well in the league. And then these new owners took over and within less than a month, they're in administration. So the evidence would rather, I think, point towards the ownership rather than the EFL in this case. Look, it might be that the EFL are 20% culpable and the Wigan owners are 80% culpable. I just don't think it's fair to sit there and say the EFL are not fit for purpose because Wigan went into administration. I don't think that statement is fair. The EFL might not be fit for purpose. There might be 100 different reasons why they're not. In this particular example, unless we can see details of that owners and directors test, then I can't say for certain. I have a hunch that this is the Wigan owners' fault, and that is where I would be putting my blame. But I don't know that for certain. That's just a hunch based on what I've read and the rules. Let me know what you think in the comments. Look, as usual on this channel, I want this to be the best place for Championship discussion and debate. And I want the discussions on this channel to be framed in the correct way. So as long as that happens, I don't really mind. Look, it's an emotional issue. People feel sorry for the Wigan fans. Therefore, what do people want to do when they feel emotional? They want to blame somebody. And I get it. I really, really get it. I do. It's rubbish for the Wigan players, the Wigan management and the Wigan fans. So really, this is an issue of who are we blaming here? Are we blaming the Wigan owners or are we blaming the EFL owners and directors test for letting them in? Yeah, that's what I've got it boiled down to. And I think we need to be balanced here. I don't think it's 100%, 0% either way. It might be. It might be completely the EFL's fault. There might have been obvious flags that that were raised and they didn't stop them taking over, in which case it's the EFL's fault. But there might have been no obvious flags and these people are just awful, awful owners who've put Wigan into administration, in which case it's not the EFL's fault. It's these awful owners of Wigan. So let's just try and be open-minded about it. So my position on this now, I think, is very, very clear. First of all, I feel sorry for Paul Cook. I feel sorry for the Wigan players. I feel sorry for the Wigan fans, most of all, out of anybody in this. What I also think is this has absolutely nothing to do with the Sheffield Wednesday FFP case. Nothing. That case has no influence on this whatsoever, even to the point, like I've said, you could deduct 50 points from Sheffield Wednesday now, and what went on at Wigan still means Wigan would have been relegated. And please, if you've got issues with the Sheffield Wednesday case, go and debate that on the Sheffield Wednesday video. Fine, you might be right over there. It's got nothing to do with this one now. I really, really do feel that. And the timings are clear in a case of administration and not so much in FFP. What it boils down to is, was this the Wigan owners taking over and putting them into administration with 6 weeks of the seasons left? Or was it the EFL not seeing any clear and obvious evidence that the Wigan owners were going to do that? Surely they wouldn't have let them through to become owners if there was clear and obvious evidence. And if there is clear and obvious evidence that comes out that they shouldn't have been let through, I will stand next to the people who are saying the EFL owners and directors test is not fit for purpose. And I will say, I agree with you. It's not fit for purpose. But until I see evidence of that, I cannot sit here and type maybe a slightly performative virtue signaling tweet that says, oh, screw the EFL, they've screwed Wigan. We don't know that. And I think there's probably more evidence to say that Wigan's owners have screwed Wigan rather than the EFL. Or is it a combination of both? Woo! There we go. I'm getting pretty amped up and vexed about this. Again, my most sympathy goes to the Wigan fans. It's not fair. It's just not fair. They were a good team and they've been relegated for one of two reasons, either because their owners are totally incompetent or the EFL are totally incompetent, or they're both quite incompetent, and that's the perfect storm of incompetence. Look, I'm going to stop ranting about this. Just please, if you do come in the comments, please make your comments reasoned. Don't let your emotion override your ability to talk with reason. Don't scream and shout at everybody. And if you are going to have an opinion on this, which you're quite welcome to, try and take into account all the facts that I've tried to research and present to you. Yeah, it has nothing to do with the Sheffield Wednesday case. It really does not. Is it relevant to compare the two? Yeah, it's not irrelevant, but they're apples and oranges and pears. They're the same but different, if you know what I mean. So look, there you go. That is my thoughts on Wigan's appeal being rejected. And just remember that it's the Wigan fans that have got it worse in this, and try and figure out really what proportion of the blame goes to the EFL, what proportion of the blame goes to the Wigan owners. It's not black and white. It really isn't. So let's try and have a sensible debate, discussion, etc. about all of this. Look, I've got myself so wound up, I'm out of breath. Look, I'm going to be back later on for the Championship playoff final in about an hour and a half's time, and I did want to have a bath, so I'm going to go and disappear now and do that. In the meantime, please get your comments in, and please, you can support the channel via Super Chat or by subscribing on Patreon. That's a way to support me financially, trying to make a go of this part-time or full-time. You can also help out if you don't feel like you want to contribute financially. You don't have to, you know, that's absolutely fine. Just put the thumbs up button, get in the discussion, just be polite, civil. And this is not Arsenal fan TV. This is not emotional people yelling about their emotions. This is hopefully smart football fans analysing the facts and discussing them in a civil way with other smart football fans. Look, on the terraces, fine, banter, point scoring, brilliant, love it, whatever, have some drinks, go and do that. This channel's not really about that. It's about maybe a little bit more of a, I don't want to be snotty about it, but a little bit more of a realistic, fact-based discussion is what I will say. Thank you for helping us reach 11,000 subs. Hit the subscribe button. Get your thoughts in. I think I've given mine very passionately, I hope. Guys, don't let your emotions and your sympathy, which I totally understand with the Wigan management, the Wigan players and the Wigan fans, override a series of facts that really point to two people here to blame: the EFL owners and directors test, or the Wigan owners, or, as I said, a perfect storm of incompetence and a combination of both. Let me know what you think in the comments. Over and out.